if you're paying attention in the United States right now, I have a bit of a concern for you. You no longer have the constitutionally protected right to legal counsel. Now, how can I say that? Quite simply. They have indicted the lawyers of Donald Trump for doing their constitutionally protected job. They were working on a case. They had permission. Shit. The Democrats have even indicted the Assistant Attorney General at the time, from the period that they're claiming some sort of RICO violation occurred. Racketeering. What is it? It's racketeering something corruption organization. Whatever the case, the entire indictment that Fulton County, Georgia just released literally says, fuck you, fuck your rights, they don't exist anymore. This is just one more goddamn domino to the end of your constitutional rights. They shut you in your damn houses. They told you can't speak. They used some sort of bullshit loophole, which isn't even a loophole, to force private companies to censor their opposition. If you think there is anything good about Democrats in the United States, you have something seriously wrong with you. Mentally, you have something mentally wrong with you if you're still sitting there going, the Democrats are right. They're stripping one person of their rights. The instant they do that, they can strip everybody of their rights. This is what I don't understand. The argument from the left, this needs to happen. These people are evil. You're the ones taking rights away. You're the ones denying the Constitution. You're the ones denying the rule of law unless that law helps you in some way. And it only got worse with when the judge wants to have the goddamn trial. Tell me someone can have a fair trial in the United States with a straight face. Because it can't happen anymore. It will never happen ever again. The two factions have so divided our nation, we aren't a nation anymore. We're just going about our day hoping somebody doesn't come around and shoot somebody else. But the only ones using violence are leftists. We are in a civil war, it's just one side doesn't want to do it. But they're not going to have a choice before very long. Hell, you can't even use your rights to free speech. You say one thing that the FBI thinks is wrong, you're going to get a SWAT team showing up at your house. Meanwhile, I got a president who literally threatened half the nation, and no one's bitching about that. No one remembers Afghanistan and that bullshit, right? No, you don't. Why? Because Trump's a bad man. But the one who fucking failed, the one who caused the situation, the one who is the biggest threat to the nation isn't Trump. He's an asshole. But he's not the biggest threat to the United States of America. The people who are rabidly going after him are. There's no changing their minds. They are so far gone, they disregard the very thing that allows them to even have any ounce of power in the first place. The Constitution. Now, I have my disagreements with Dershowitz. He has spent a lifetime doing this. He is also a professor. I'm a millennial from the 80s who was in school when it transitioned from, good education to No Child Left Behind. Another distinct marker in the way of things. I actually, interestingly enough, ran into a high school teacher who was one of the reasons I pursued history for college. Great guy, love the guy. Happy to see him, and happy to see him doing well. But he left the teaching profession because of the terrible standards and the complete disregard for factual history. The school district came at him. He taught high schoolers. In fact, he didn't really... The first time you ran into this teacher would have been 10th grade, because he taught world history, Western civilization. He used a college-level textbook to teach us, and we got them. We understood. We learned. Two years after I graduated, they handed him a book to teach the new setup that they were pushing. It was a book that had a 6th grade reading level, and you can't even describe it as a survey course, because it omitted so many things that are absolutely necessary to understanding the progression from, let's say, Genghis Khan and his impact on the West to colonialism and American imperialism, and the effect that had on the world. No, not anymore. Here's this little thing. France did this. England did this. Scotland, well, fuck Scotland, because, England. They probably don't even teach about, well, I know for a fucking fact, they don't teach about what the hell Cromwell did to the Irish. You want to bitch at me about slavery? Let's talk about Irish slaves. The first slaves in the United States. But let's not, because they're white people. Ignorance is a problem. Willful ignorance is a threat. Being willfully ignorant of a government entity stripping you of your constitutional rights and cheering it on means you've already lost the plot, you're already too far gone, and anything you say from here on out is not something I care to hear. And going forward, that's going to be my thing. If someone starts talking to me about politics, I'm going to ask them about this Trump indictment from Georgia. And if they say they support it, I'm going to say, well, we have nothing to talk about, because I'm not an authoritarian. I like my constitutional rights. I like that other people have their constitutional rights. But if you think this Trump indictment is a cause célèbre, or whatever the fuck the French call it, you're out of your fucking mind, and you are no longer a sane individual. You're not sane. If you don't see the problem with this case, you have something wrong with you. Now, I get it. You've been trained to hate Donald Trump. It's all you've been done. It's all that's happened to you. Since the moment he came out and said, well, I'm going to run as a Republican, you've been trained to hate him. Take somebody off of MSNBC and CNN and ABC and NBC and ESPN. Take them away from those sources of information and just give them actual articles that don't have bullshit headlines where they completely deny the headline at the end of the article. I mean, how many of these crazy headlines where it's like, oh, this happened, and this is why it's a terrible thing, and then they get to the bottom of the article, the last paragraph, where they go, but this is why it's not really a problem and it's not really illegal, but, we feel it should be. They've already got you. You wondered how the Nazis came into power? Democrats doing the exact same fucking thing, and more than half the nation is following them do it. Saying, hey, let's go. This is the way it should be. Yeah. You ever wonder how the Nazis got to power? Look in a goddamn mirror. Because their political rivals, the Democrats, they no longer have constitutional rights. They no longer have constitutional protections. And for the same things the Democrats did for 7 years, well, actually, since the turn of the century, if we're going to be honest about this, because Al Gore, but the same thing that Democrats have done this entire century, they're now prosecuting someone else for doing. We have a fair justice system. We don't have a fucking justice system. The executive branch doesn't care to listen to the Supreme Court. When the Supreme Court turns around and goes, that's not constitutional. You can't do that. Again, the current administration has disregarded so many parts of the Constitution, it baffles my mind that not even the Democrats have impeached him. But then again, I have to remember, Democrats don't care about constitutional law, don't care about the rights of the citizens that supersede anything the government decides they want to do. Democrats want power. And they have it in the cities. And look what that's done for cities. But, come on. You really want to see what Democrat policy does? Look up Philadelphia. Look at Kensington. Used to be an up-and-coming neighborhood. Used to be. Not anymore. Now it's like Zombieland. And the city is just giving them more needles. More needles. Here's your free needles. They are not stopping the issue. They're propagating the issue. You ever wonder why minority areas just don't seem to ever recover? Because in those areas, the Democrats are in charge. Why is it such a leap to understand that maybe the Democrats are the problem? Why is that so difficult? Oh, speaking of illegal things concerning elections, if we're going to be talking about that, how about destroyed evidence? What do I mean by this? Well, the ballots from voting in 2020 were supposed to be held for at least 3 years. But in several instances, especially in my state, those ballots were destroyed. 2 weeks. 2 weeks after the freaking voting day. After voting day. Which again, voting day. The Constitution says there's only 1 day for voting. But again, constitutions mean jack shit to Democrats. Because constitutions stand in the way of democracy, which is not what we have here. We're about to have socialist democracy, which is authoritarianism. But you guys don't actually study anything. You don't know what political science does throughout time. You don't realize that the Nazis were socialist Democrats, do you? Probably not, because you keep calling them fascists. Well, fascism and communism are two sides of the same goddamn coin. They're both authoritarian. They're both socialist. The only difference is who controls the means of production. Not what's being produced. The government always decides what's being produced in either forms of this authoritarianism. But either the government owns the factories or private individuals own the factories. That's the only real difference between fascism and communism. They both like cult of personality. They both like the destruction of religion. They both think that the children are property of the state. They both believe that violence is how you stop things, how you solve problems. Pretty sure there's only one side right now in the United States who's condoning violence and crime. Democrats. But what could I possibly know? I don't know shit. Apparently. I thought this was a constitutional republic, but after yesterday, I know, I've had my doubts for quite a while. But after yesterday's indictment from Georgia, and their subsequent admission that they're going to hold this court date in order to interfere in the 2024 elections. Yeah. It makes no sense. But again, what could I possibly know? Oh, I don't know. More than most of you. More than most of you. But hey, you're on here to learn, which means you're not going to get my video. No, you're going to get some bullshit produced by a bunch of fucking leftists who are open communists who quite literally can't adhere to the Constitution because communism is a threat to Republican government. And again, for all of you idiots, small r Republican. Not the faction that does jack shit to stop the Democrats. They're literally just a speed bump to cool us off for a little bit while the Democrats just yeah, we'll hold off until we're in power again. But we'll spend this time bitching about all of these things that we want to accomplish that we can't accomplish because we're not actually allowed to do it. And the Republicans are in charge. So we're just going to say it's the Republicans' fault, blame the Republicans, and when we gain power again, we'll just force it through by any means necessary, most likely through executive order. Fun stuff. We're doing great. The United States won't see 250 years. It won't. Not as a constitutional republic. In fact, when the 250-year anniversary comes around, we will probably be fighting each other in the streets. Because even if the extreme measures that the Democrats have taken to completely subvert the rights of the citizens, even if those get shot down, the Democrats, the leftists, they won't accept it. And they will come at you with violence. And you will be forced to defend yourself. And you better hope you are not in a Democrat area, because if you are, you're not going to have the ability, the right to defend yourself. They've made that very clear in New York. Someone defends themselves and other people against an armed, crazy person, well, they're the fucking criminal. Sorry to lay it out there for you. It's a little pissing. I'm pissed. I am absolutely pissed. And again, if someone starts talking politics to me, I will be stopping and asking them what they think of this indictment from Fulton County, Georgia. And from there, I will either turn around and have a conversation with them or say, listen, I don't want to talk to you. You hold authoritarian views. I'm going to go about my day. Keep your oppression away from me. Because that's where we're at. The divide has to become physical now, because otherwise, it's not going to be a very good few years for us here in the U.S., especially since Biden's starting World War III.